gold. Fiat, anti-fiat. Gold and silver are anti-fiats. Fiats are debasement tools. Debasement tools are having catch-up debasement for crime and debt built up by a criminal banking cartel over the last 60, 70, 80 years since 1964 and the Vietnam War and the post-World War II boom, and quite possibly further back than that, the Federal Reserve. By the way, a chart I regularly access that proves Jay Powell came out and said something. Jay spoke, Jay of the Federal Reserve, by the way, and he said, you know, the politicization, and he's received this Department of Justice. They're doing distraction political theater, of course, for you, in truth.
All right, we are in between sprint intervals here, so I'm out of breath. Who cares, right? We get it in where we fed it in. Good morning, all of you La La Landers out there in YouTube, social media world. Of course, if you're watching this, you're less of a La La Lander than the rest of us. It is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Key number 2026. If you have survived the year 2025, here we are today as we understand the world to be more crazy, more violent, more volatile than at any point, perhaps, than any of you in any age group can remember. All right, so as we're out and about for our daily walk/sprint routine, we see that the price of silver exceeded $90 per ounce. All right, and if you've listened to me over the course of the last month or so, I relate it to fitness and health. How? That price of silver as an indicator of the corruption and fraud that has been occurring in every aspect of society, from your healthcare industry to academia to financial institution to the legislative body of your government. Well, I say legislative, holistically, all three branches, but primarily the financialization of our legislative process. You could thank Citizens United Act for that. I believe Citizens United Act 2010. Go back and investigate it. Now, that clip that I shared at the beginning of this video was none other than Francis Hunt, a very respectable voice in the world of finances and economics, aka Market Sniper, aka Crypto Sniper. Those are his respective YouTube channels. Check him out. I always enjoy plugging people who I get a sense are doing things for the well-being of others. They put their information out there for free, which is a big deal. This guy's been doing it for a long time. He called out the oil shortages back in 2019, called the pandemic out before it even happened. You can see the writing on the wall as we continue down the path forward. Most of us live daily lives, day to day, from headline to headline, where you must see the bigger picture. 2026 being the beginning of the bigger picture. And so when you see the price of silver, it is just the beginning, where I have somebody very special in my life ask me just last night, Jeremy, shouldn't you not be buying something when it's at its all-time high? And I says immediately, you're absolutely right. You're onto it. You know exactly what you're talking about. If we are dealing with the fundamentals of the market, there is nothing fundamental about what's going on. And I'm going to explain why that is right now. We're going to add one F word to another. Fundamentals, fractional reserve lending. Fractional reserve lending, of course, not being a word, rather a phrase, but it is a financial instrument that's been used to create leverage and wealth for the financial institutions that have been controlling your politicians and controlling the markets worldwide. Now, fractional reserve lending, in a nutshell, is when a bank takes money that you have in an account and they can lend up to 9 times over the amount that you have in an account to other customers. Now, when you have money in that account, what do they charge you? Monthly fees, right? If you're a person who likes to go into your overdraft, they're going to charge you overdraft fees out the yin yang. They're going to charge you interest. So now you have 9 times over printing, right? 9 times over interest and 9 times over banking fees. And when I learned about fractional reserve lending back in 2018, I'd already learned the gist of the Treasury, the Federal Reserve, the central banking system, their relationships with one another, and how it all works. And I hanged my head in my hands and I cried. And I didn't cry for me. I cried for a lot of other people who really have been really mentally weak, emotionally weak, and amongst many other things. And they have found themselves in very inequitable positions while trying to raise families. And I thank God that in my circumstance, having lost my job, having lost my PhD program because I refused to take a test trial gene therapy nanotechnology product, I was single and could afford to do that. Most people could not. And so I cried about it. And then I woke up and realized that I must control my emotions. And this has been a lifelong lesson of mine to grow up and become a man, have that masculine or that divine masculinity, and understand my role in society moving forward if I am to have a family and be healthy and survive another year. People do not realize the risk of survival in this country diminishes significantly with each month, with each year, and you don't realize it. If you have not taken it upon yourself to prioritize your health, take a look at the silver market, and every time that price goes up, you had better keep in mind that that is the level of fraudulence that has been occurring in this country for decades, and it's being rained down upon you in the form of inflation, in the form of devaluation of that money that you have in your pocket, in the form of disease, disorder, and chaos that you subject yourself to on a daily basis by turning that big box planted on your wall that you call a TV. Every time you turn it on, it beams in that information. You think that you're above and beyond it. You're not, ladies and gentlemen. And the majority of folks that I talk to still are not aware of the danger that the average American citizen is in with your health. 76% of Americans have a chronic disease. Do you understand the seriousness of that? That means 7 out of 10 individuals that I walk by along this trail have a chronic disease that's most likely managed by multiple doctors. It's managed by pharmaceutical company. And thank God they're out there getting their stride frequency and stride length in, because that's just the start of it. That's a fundamental of what we're talking about. Speaking about fundamentals, walking, getting out there, access to excess. We are ultra consumers, and we have been blinded in our consumption. Willful ignorance, willful blindness, if you will. And if I were to talk with anybody out there, stop anyone on this trail, call any person up who I haven't already spoken to about this, the majority of people have no idea what fractional reserve lending is. And I challenge you to call your bank or financial institution that you do business with on a daily basis and ask them what their fractional reserve lending rate is. They won't be able to tell you. Most have no idea, and they work for the bank. So that tells you that they are not in on it. The majority of folks in the medical field, in the financial institutions, probably many politicians are not in on it. They are actually ignorant. Willfully so. And so, this is the year of urgency. You must be urgent in everything that you do. If you are in debt, if you are out of shape, if you are overweight or obese and currently manage a chronic disease, You should be taking minimal breaks, ladies and gentlemen. You should be going on fewer vacations. A few days before Christmas, you take time off. You're not coming back to work until after January 1st. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and have no business doing such things. No business doing such things. And if you do, perhaps these are folks that shouldn't be voting. People aren't going to like me saying that. Not that your votes matter so much anymore now that we know what's going on in our elections, for those who actually pay attention and collect all of the information, collect all the data and do a meta-analysis. This is no longer opinion. This is not an opinion. This is a viewpoint based on cold, hard information. Unbiased at that, ladies and gentlemen. You put the ego aside. Take a look at that price of silver. That is an indicator of our dis-ease, our disorder, our chaos, our corruption, our fraud. And as Debbie Downer as that sounds, that is an accurate thing to say. We have been going through this for decades, and they have found ways to keep you in the dark. This is why I say La La Land. We have been in La La Land. How much longer shall you stay in La La Land? You have no choice, ladies and gentlemen, but to take charge of your own post, right? Join a fitness community. I have one. It's called I Motivate Me. Join it. Fitness and Health Investment Initiative. I've been doing it for years. I work with people who are willing to be open-minded, right? And understand the truth about what's going on so as to handle that truth and develop ways in which we manage our emotions. An emotional person is not a healthy person. You are detrimental and a danger in many senses of the word. Imagine emotional men with their fingers on the nuclear button, the red button, red vest. Put me in charge. So there it is. Price of silver. This is why I say that the price of silver is an indicator. It's not to rub in the price of silver for those who own silver. It is to simply show an association and relationship to the fraud and corruption and criminality of the institution, of the corporation, of the legislative system. You understand this. You see it right in front of you. You cannot deny it. Take charge of yourself. If you are overweight or obese or are managing a chronic disease, it is time to overcome those things through your mind control. And to do that, you must see the manipulation to begin with and decide that you do not want to participate. You do not wish to invest in it any longer. There's your motivational speech for the day. I thought I would come out here and put a silver foot into your behind and tell you to get out there and be somebody. So darn it, get out there and be somebody.